Listen-only mode.
Yes, I see.
Welcome to the PASS Database Administration Virtual Group. Today we are going to be talking about SQL Server 2017 Community-Driven Enhancements with Javier Villegas. My name is Julie Blomquist and I'm a member of the DBA Virtual Chapter. There is information on the PASS Business Analytics, which is coming up in August. And it's a program which with speakers is another a conference which you can attend. The PASS Summit is the premier SQL Server Summit. It's coming up October 31st through November 3rd. And they have bundles which are available, which include the pre-cons and the USB with all the lectures. If you do decide to register for the PASS conference, if you use the code VC15FPS6, you will save $150. There are quite a large number of PASS virtual chapters and virtual groups. This allows you to get detailed information if you don't have a local group or if you're wanting additional information besides your local chapter. SQL Saturdays are one-day mini conferences held in different areas throughout the world. They're, like I said, a mini SQL conference. There usually is a nominal fee to cover the lunch. So here are some opportunities that you could go to your PASS account and join local chapters. You can present, you could do quite a lot of networking within the PASS organization. There are also many opportunities for volunteering with PASS, and you can make recommendations for a PASS Outstanding Volunteer Award. If you have discovered the PASS Virtual DBA chapter on YouTube, it would be great if you could go to the PASS website and become a member. We will then be sending you emails about the presentations which are coming, and you'll be able to download the supplemental material and the scripts. Here's the information again about the membership and the Twitter. And today we have Javier Villegas as our presenter. Javier has been a database administrator since 1997, I guess starting with SQL 6.5 and now all the way to SQL the 2016. He's a Microsoft MVP, Data Platform MCP and MCTS, and a DBA manager at Mediterranean Shipping Company since 2006. And he's also been a PASS member since 2008. He's an avid blogger. He's on the MSDN forums, and he's a contributor to those. He specializes in SQL Server administration, performance tuning, and high availability. He is a frequent speaker at SQL Saturdays and at the PASS Virtual Chapter. Okay. So Javier, I've just changed you to be the presenter.
Okay. Thank you, Julie.
And I see your slide deck.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the presentation. Hello, everyone. My name is Javier Villegas. I am from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I work as a DBA at Mediterranean Shipping Company for a number of years. I am Data Platform MVP, and well, I used to speak for different SQL Saturdays and PASS virtual groups in Spanish and English. Today we're going to be talking about SQL Server 2017, community-driven enhancement. You all know SQL Server 2017 is around the corner. There are many community technology preview versions around to download and start playing with and start getting involved with. So the idea is to cover most of the new features, and in particular the features that are driven by the community. You know, Microsoft is a complete new company right now, so it listen the feedback from the database professional community and the customer quite actively. So with that feedback in this version, we are seeing several features that are implemented because of those recommendations. Right? So let's start. Okay, well now SQL Server works in a number of platforms, right? So it's no more a Windows-only application, a Windows-only service. Is working in an heterogeneous environment, like in different distribution of Linux, still Windows, and Dockers, which give us the possibility of running SQL Server on Mac OS. Also, in terms of data types, there are multiple data types that SQL works with right now: structure, unstructured, so everything. Regarding to development languages, well, now Microsoft is more an open source. It's more involved with the open source community. So in terms of programming languages, well, we have a bunch of them where we can use to interact with SQL Server. And well, it's a platform which works on-premise at your own data center, in the cloud with Azure, and also with the hybrid environment, right, for the combination of both of them. Regarding to the platform, as I quickly mentioned before, it works on Linux, Windows, and Docker. And in particular, in this distribution for Linux, it works on Red Hat, SUSE, and Ubuntu, and possibly in other Linux distributions in the short future. Dockers, right, which, as I said, give us the possibility of running it in SQL in containers, and Windows servers and Windows 10. So that was a quick introduction about the platform, the SQL Server 2017 platform. So now let's talk a little bit about the agenda, what we're going to be covering today in this presentation. These are the features that we will talk about: a smart differential backup, a smart transaction log backup, a new flavor of select into, right? Then a bunch of enhancements related to Tempdb for the setup and the monitoring process. Transaction logs, diagnostic, better diagnostic, right? Improved backups for certain type of databases, some changes regarding to the processor for the DMOS sysinfo DMB, right? We're going to be also talking about Resumable online index reveal, a huge feature for DBAs. You're going to see it later. And also a great feature called automatic time correction. So let's start. We all know that SQL Server 2016 is the faster database engine platform. So SQL Server 2017 promised to be even faster, right? Also giving us the possibility of, as quickly mentioned before, run in heterogeneous environment, right? in SQL 2016, Microsoft introduced the possibility of doing analytics using the R language. Now, in SQL 2017, we have the possibility of interact with Python, right, which is great. Um, so let's move on and start with the first feature. A smart differential backup. What Microsoft did for this is basically add a new column called modify extend page count, right, to the DMB called DMDB file space usage, right? So what it does is this column provides us the amount of modified pages in the database since the last backup. Why this is useful, right? Uh, let's assume that we have a backup strategy that we do a full backup on Sundays, and then over the week we do differentials backup, right? Until the following Sunday we redo another full backup. All right, with this new column, what we get is the amount of changes. So easily we can see in percentage how was the how was the changes on the database itself, right? And get all the changes that were made. So let's say that doing a simple math function, we can get that the database was changed by 20%, 30%, or whatever in terms of pages since the last full backup. Why is that useful? Because right now, let's say that by midweek on Wednesday, right, we get that the number of pages that were changed is over 80 or 90% since compared with what we have last Sunday, right? So is taking a differential backup a good practice? No, maybe we should consider doing a full backup, right? So what we're gonna be able to do is make a smarter backup solutions ourselves, right? And even third-party vendors. Why? Because we can constantly checking these values, right? And see if it is really necessary to take a differential backup or do a full backup. And adding this logic to our scripts, we are going to do better backups. We're gonna see it in a demo later. We have something similar for the okay. But by the way, this feature was highly requested in the Microsoft Connect site, right? So it was implemented by Microsoft because of that feedback. Okay, now let's talk about okay, let me go back to the feature smart differential backup, right? And this is the example, right? With this division, we can get the percentage. Let's see. Let's try to let me hide. Okay. Now we have the modified extended page count, right? And the allocated extended page count. So with this, we can easily take, this value in percentage since the last full backup, right? This is an example. All right, moving along for the transaction log backup, right? On SQL Server 2017, there is a new DMF, right, called DMDB log stats, in where the parameter is the database ID, right? Um, it's gonna be, I mean, actually it is right now. It's exposing a new column called log since last log backup MB, right? MB means megabyte. So this is going to give us, right, the amount of megabytes in the transaction logs that were changed or added in the transaction log since the last transaction log backup, right? Again, this will be extremely useful in cases like, for example, we have a full backup transaction log backups every X amount of minutes, let's say every 10 minutes, right? So instead of just starting the transaction log backup every 10 minutes, we can query with this DMF the amount of megabyte that we have since the last transaction log backup, right? And let's say, for example, that we don't have a lot of activity on the server and this amount is too small, we can say, okay, don't do the transaction log backup and let's do it later, right? So again, this feature, as well as the one for the full / differential backup, will provide us with more intelligence, right, to take better decisions when we do our backups. We're gonna see it in the demo real quick, and it's really useful. Okay, select into on file group. This is also another highly bought item in the Microsoft Connect page, right? And it's really useful when we have to do warehouse. Um, in DW, basically we work with several intermediate tables, right? We aggregate data and we put it into intermediate tables, and then we prepare the end result. So with this select into on file group, right, what we are going to be able to do is send the output of select into a particular file group, right? So let's say that for the when we are handling the data, we have a particular file group with a particular data file on a different kind of storage, maybe faster, right? To be able to prepare this data faster. So we can redirect the output of the select into to a particular file group. We're gonna see it in a minute also, and it's great. Here is a little bit how it works, right? Basically, we add a file group, we add a data file to that particular file group, right? And when we do the select into, right, we have now the possibility of targeting to the file group that we just created. Okay, let's move on. Tempdb setup improvements. Before SQL Server 2016, we used to, just install SQL Server, and then we had to manually tune the Tempdb depending on, different conditions, amount of processors, and, because of that, we had to decide the amount of files, the data files that we're going to be using, etc. But all that was a manual process, right? It had to be done as a post setup task after installing SQL 2014, let's say. In SQL Server 2016, we had the possibility of set up the Tempdb within the setup, right? There is within the setup wizard, we had the possibility of specifying the number of files, the location of those files, the initial data size, as well as the auto grow size for both the data and the logs. Right? Now in SQL Server 2017, we have the possibility of, make each data file up to 256 gigabytes. Right? This was a limitation before in SQL Server 2016. Right? So now in 2017, we can specify larger data files for the Tempdb. In terms of monitoring, right? We have this dn-tran version store space usage. What's the reason of this? We need to have better tooling to do Tempdb monitoring, right? Let's say that at some point Tempdb starts growing, and we don't know very well what was the reason till now, right? Now, if we use a version store and running this DMB, we can get per session, right, the amount of usage within Tempdb. This is going to be really, really good to understand how the SQL Server sessions, active sessions, are using the Tempdb. Transaction log monitoring and diagnostic, right? Now with the DMDB log info, we can get the BLF information for our transaction log, right? And trying to follow the best practices, try to keep the number of BLF reduced, right? So this way we can keep track quickly just running a DMB. This is what is exposed in DBCC log info, right? But now we have it through a DMB. All right, improve backup performance for small databases on high-end servers. Something that we had before is that when we were working with the small databases in our testing environment, they were okay. We were able to backup, restore, etc. But when we move those databases to a production environment on a high-end server, right? In most of the case, we start experiencing a slowdown, especially in times when we were doing backup. So the performance for the backup process was degraded a lot, right? And that was a common behavior for small and medium databases. And this was happening because the SQL Server need to drain the buffer pool in the ongoing IOPS operation for the database, right? So the backup time is not just tied, or it's not just related to the database side. It's also about the active buffer pool, right? And particular that side. So in SQL Server 2017, right, there is an improvement of when taking backups of this kind of databases. We're going to see the chart real quick, right? Now, in older SQL Server versions, backups of databases of up to 8 megabytes, right? We're taking, a considerable amount of time, right? In SQL Server 2017, right, this time has been reduced a lot. And as and we are going to see more improvement when the database is even smaller, right? You see here in the chart that when the database size is getting bigger, the backups time are kind of similar to previous SQL Server version. In terms of timing and improvement, we have here, for example, for an 8 meg database, before it was taking 107 seconds, and now it's taking nothing. Right? The improvement was too much. And here we have all uh, the, the the data. Right? This is something that has been provided by Microsoft. I was able to test this on my lab environment, and when we work with databases with between 8 gigs and 16 gigs, you see the difference, right? In terms of when you have the backup file done and ready for you to use it, is really noticeable. The improvement that we see on when using SQL Server 2017. Processor information in this DMOS sysinfo, right? This was also requested from many from the SQL community, and this was the possibility of have more processor information regarding to the server that was hosting SQL Server, right? Because before we didn't have it. So now this DMOS sysinfo is exposing socket count, core count, and core per socket, right? So now, I mean, additionally to all the information that we used to have on this DMB, we have more information about processors. This is really useful, right? We don't have to go to start checking for core counts, etc. Now we have all packed on this DMB. Okay, let's switch to Resumable Online Index Reveal. As I quickly mentioned at the beginning, this is one of my favorite features because doing index rebuild or index maintenance on a highly transactional SQL server, production SQL server, sometimes is a bit complicated, right? You have to find out the right maintenance window to do it without hurting, the system, and also, if your databases are big with big tables and huge amount of rows, most probably, if the database is critical, it's going to be within an availability group. So that means that the database will be in full recovery model. So when we do index rebuild, we all know that the transaction log start growing like crazy, right? It's also especially when we do the online index rebuild. The growth rate for the transaction log is much bigger. So now, what the Resumable Online Index Rebuild do for us? It allows us to start doing an online index rebuild of a particular index, right? And in case we need it, we can pause the index rebuild operation, right? And we can resume it whenever we want, right away, or in the following maintenance windows, or whenever we want or we can, right? So it's giving us the possibility of pausing the index rebuild process, right? In between, I mean, this is still using transaction log information, so the transaction log will keep growing. So within this pause, we can also do the transaction log backups, and the usage for the transaction log will go back to 0 once again, right? So I can think about this feature of, in one session doing the online index rebuild of all my indexes, and on a different session checking the transaction log percentage of usage, the disk space, etc. And if for some reason uh, is about to grow too much, or we have these issues, etc., we pause the index reveal operation. We do the transaction log and we continue. Another scenario is that, let's say that we have a tight maintenance window at night, so we start doing it, and when we reach the end of the maintenance windows, we put the pause, right, and we resume it in the next maintenance window. So I see many opportunities and advantage of this, and believe me, in terms of features, this is a real saver for many DBAs. I hope it is for you too. This is a quick example, right, of the syntax. The syntax is quite similar. Alter index, index name, table name, reveal, resumable on, right? So that's the only change that we have to do. And then we have the syntax to do a pause. We're going to see it in a demo real quick. Also, if we have, some operation that is resumable, we have this DMB, which basically will provide us the percentage of completion of that resumable operation, right? If it is starting, I don't know, 10%, 20%, 50%, etc. And if it is running or if it is in pause. So let's see it later. Another good feature is automatic plan correction. We all love query stored in SQL Server 2016. I do. I use it every single day, and it's a great feature. Just to give a quick summary, when you enable query store on user database, right? Query store is capturing uh, um, operational information as well as runtime operations. So for every single query on that database is tracking the query plan as well as the statistic of executions, reads, writes, etc. Right? So is keeping is like a flight recorder of all the activity for that particular database, right? With all this information, we can do a lot of things. The most important one is that we can uh, track a particular query, and let's say that the query plan changed because of any reason, right? And we notice that the query plans that we had before was better than the one that is running right now, we can easily force to run any query plan manually, right? So for every single query, we can track all the execution plan, right, the query plan, and we set manually the one that we consider that is the best, right? Okay, now with SQL Server 2017, right, we have the possibility of gives all that responsibility to the engine. So enabling this feature is like, okay, since you are tracking all the queries on the database, right, and you are tracking all the execution plan, right, you you always use the best execution plan, even if it changes in the future. So it's for every single query, it's gonna always use the best execution plan that it records. Right? It's really awesome. The syntax in SQL Server 2016 for query store was, to force a plan for a particular query, set it to a particular plan. Right? Now, what we have to do is, for the whole database, enable the feature automatic tuning with the option force last good plan. Right? So just doing this, we have this in an automatic way. Um, as I mentioned, this is constantly monitoring and analyzing the performance for every single plan and deciding on the flight which is the best one and set it up for future executions. Right? Also, if it notices that the plan that it chooses and it forces automatically, there is a new one which is even better, it will be also change it on the fly to use that one. So it will always be looking for the optimal execution plan and use it. Okay, then we have some string functions. Then I will quickly mention them, and then in the demo it's going to be easier to understand. Finally, we have the trim function, which removes characters, blank characters at the beginning and at the end of the string. Right? So now we don't have to do L trim, R trim altogether. Just with trim, we remove all this character, and we're gonna see some variation as well. Translate, which allow us to perform one-to-one character substitution within a string. Concat WS, which is a variation of concat, right? Which allow us to, set a custom, let's say, string separator, right? And use it to separate it within the string, right? And string aggregation, that is my favorite. We're going to see it. We are going to be able to do string concatenation just using one function. Before it was a huge, ugly T-SQL code. So let's jump into the demo, and let's see all these features in action. All right. Okay, let's go back to a smart differential backup, right? We have a local instance installed on this machine, and what I do here is I check I call it percentage differential changes since last full backups. It's doing this operation between modify extended page count and the allocated extended page count, right? So we are seeing that since the last full backup, I have this 83%. So maybe it's a good time to take a full backup instead of doing a new differential backup. So let's do a new full backup to this, right? And then let's check what we see. So real quick, we're doing this backup. Let's fix the same query, and we see now that this percentage is 0%, right? So we just pull back, and from now on, it's gonna start, keeping track of the changes and reporting it within this DMB. So now let's do some operations on this database. Let's create the table and populate it with 15,000 rows, right? So I just create the table and I'm populating it. And when this finish, we are going to rerun the query again. or probably we can, okay. Now this has variation, is almost 1%, right? Let's do even more activity. Let's create a new table and insert several rows. And now in a differentiation, we can check for this database. I run this over and over and check that this differential is increasing, right? We run it again. So we see that it's increasing quickly because we're having activity on the database, right? What we're doing here, as I said, it's just inserting several thousand rows into a new table. So, okay, now maybe 30% is good enough to take a differential backup and keep doing a differential backup, but at some point, that percentage will not be too good, and probably we should be taking another full backup. So my example down here is basically that we change this, we evaluate this value, we put it into a variable, and if that variable is, for example, under 70%, we keep taking differential backups. Otherwise we go to the full backup. Here is if it is bigger than 70%, we do full backups, or differential backups if it is under 70%. Right? So this way we can do our own smart backup solution. Okay, let's jump to the next demo. Stop this one. Okay, this is a smart transaction log backup, right? We're gonna make sure that the database is in full recovery model, and we're checking the percentage of the transaction log usage of AdvantageWorks 2014 database. We see that in this case right now is 28%. The same, we can also get the same information from the new from the DMF DB logs stats, right? So doing the math operation using log since last log backup MB and dividing it with the total log size in megabyte, we get the percentage, right? The log size for this database is 4.6, and the differential since the last full backup is 1.3. So it's 28%. So what we're gonna do right now is just take a transaction log backup, right, and check again the DMF, sorry, and this value is going to be reset back to 0 since we have no transactional information after the backup. You see, 0 megabyte since the last transaction log backup, and the percentage is 0. And we keep track of the timestamp for the last transaction log backup. If we, as the previous example, we start doing workload on the database, like again creating a table and populating with data, right? The transaction log will start growing. Checking the DMF, we see that now we have 353 megs, so it's 7% of the total transaction log size. So again, we decide based on these values what to do. Do we really need to take the transaction log backup now? Can we wait? So we can do whatever we want. And in this example, for every single user database on the system, we get this information, the transaction log backup timestamp, as well as the amount of megabyte changes since the last transaction log backup. So this is really useful. Okay, let's go to the next demo. We talk about sys DM OS sysinfo, that now we have information regarding to the processor, like socket count, CPU count, and cores per socket, right? So I will be connecting to two servers to get this information. So running the query, we check the full DMB, right? The one we used to have. Now just selecting the new columns, socket count, CPU count, and core per socket, and just for information, server name and version, right? I got it for two servers, and notice one particular thing. I just run the same query, right? And what we can do is that one of the server is running developer edition on Windows 10, and the other one is developer edition on Linux Ubuntu, right? So I'm connected with Management Studio to different servers with different platform, right? But still SQL Server 2017. So for one server, I have one core, one socket, sorry, 8 CPU and 4 cores per CPU, and same information for the Ubuntu VM. Okay, let's move on to the next demo. This is Resumable Online Index Rebuild. So I will do the index rebuild for this index, right? It's in table 01, index name IDX 105, right? I will try to do the index rebuild with the new option, resumable equal on. And I get an error message, right? This error message is that this resumable option is only for online operation, not for offline index rebuild, right? So in case we want to do it, we have to specify resumable on online on, right? We also have the possibility of specify max duration in minutes. So it's going to be doing the index rebuild for 1 minute, and then it's going to pause automatically. Let's switch back to this session, right? This is a script which basically goes through all the indexes and all the tables within a particular database, right? And give us this information. This script takes a little while to run, so I run it beforehand and see the output. I have table name, I have the index name, the fragmentation percentage, page count, and row count, right, for that particular table. So let's focus on this index, right, which is table 01, IDX 105 is fragmented by 98%, right, and the table has 23 million rows. And then we're also going to take on this table 2, this other index, which is on table 2, index 25, 66%, and 6 million rows, right? Let's focus on these two indexes. So let's do the index rebuild online operation, right? Okay, so it's rolling. Switching to a different session, we see that with this DMB sys index resumable operation, we execute it, right? Right, and we get that it's doing 12%, right? Here we have the table name, the index name, and the text that was executed, right? And the state that is running. So what we can do right now is pause the index, the operation. So we're gonna pause it, right? So this one's gonna take a little bit, and it will pause that operation. Well, let's do even better. Let's go to the other index, which is this one. We're going to do the index rebuild for the other index, which is smaller. And now we have two operations running, right? One for the table 1, index 1.5, and the other one for the index, for the table 2, index 2.5, right? So we have the percentage of completion, right? And so let's grab here. This one. And let's pause this guy. So now we are pausing the Resumable online index reveal for the table 2, index 2. And let's see what happened. Right? This is still running, right? So at some point, it's going to pause the operation. And let's see what we get in the DMB. Sometimes it's just to take a few long seconds to complete. We can keep querying and check that this is still running. See, we still see that the percent of completion is moving on, right? And notice something. For the table 2, index 2, now the operation is paused, right? At 11%, and for the table 1, the operation is paused at 99%. And see what we get here, right? We were running the index rebuild, and the message that the session raised is this one. Your session has been disconnected because of a high priority DLL operation, right? So the high priority DLL operation, same for the %. So we can go here, do a backup of the transaction log, we reduce the transaction log, and then we resume the index rebuild operation. This one, and this one, right? So now it's rolling. We see that for the index, the table 1 is 100%, so it's finishing. So it's finished doing the index rebuild, so it's gone, right? So the index is fully rebuilt. Then for the table 2, index 2, it's still rolling. We can even pause it one more time if we want, right? We pause it again. We get the time, the last pause time, the state, and the percentage completion, right? So let's finish the index rebuild, and when it's fully complete, this output should be empty, right? Remember what we got at the beginning. Okay, now it's finished. At the beginning, when I check this with this query, the index fragmentation level, we got 98% and we got 66%. I'm going to start running it again. It's going to take a couple of minutes, but the index rebuild operation went through successfully, and the fragmentation rate is now less than 1 or 2%. So it's complete.
So,
While we keep this running, yes.
Javier, I've got a question on this. With that resumable index rebuild, in what condition is the current index if it's paused? Is it partially
Fully
rebuilt, or
operational.
so it's still using the current index, the old index,
Yes.
until the resumable index is completed after?
Correct. Yes. It's rebuilding before this feature. If we were rebuilding an index and for some reason the operation was deadlocked, or we had to cancel the index rebuild, we had to start over from the beginning, right? Now the index get into this state of pause, so it's still fully operational, right? But the index is still usable, right? But the fragmentation was done in certain way, not 100%, right? Maybe 50%, right? It's still not fully optimized, right? But it's on its way to be fully optimized, right? So, but it's still uh, useful, right? And it's not like we are disabling the index to do this. No, the index is still fully operational. That is why this is an online operation.
So it's using the index that is partially non-fragmented versus
Correct.
the original index.
Yes. Yes.
And
I cannot tell you if it is. I mean, uh, what I got from Microsoft is that even if it is partially rebuilt, is even better than fully fragmented, right? But I haven't done my test, right? To double check, right?
and do
What happened when you have the index in, let's say, halfway fragmented or halfway rebuilt, right?
exactly. And do you know what version of SQL this is the resumable index rebuild feature
Initially,
in?
initially is an enterprise edition feature, but still not. The specs are not still released, so we don't know if this is gonna be for all SKUs or only enterprise edition. Right? So we still don't know that. I believe that's the question. Right?
Yep. And that's all the questions right now. We have about 5 minutes left.
Yeah. Let's go real quick to this select into Filegroup, right? Let's restore from the last backup the database AdventureWorks DW, right? We this database is one of the sample databases from Microsoft, and when we check the data and the log files, the file group information, we will see the default. Just a sec. Okay, we see that we have the primary file group, one data file and one log file, right? What we do here is we add a new file group called fg2, and we add a new data file to this file group. We check again the database and we see the new file group and the new data file. Right? So here, what we do is select into a new table, right, on FG2. So right now we have all the data in this fact reseller sales Excel table under the new file group. This is going to give us a lot of flexibility in terms of storage, and you know, we can have temporary storage very fast, right, to do this operation. So it's going to be great. And finally, the string operations, right? We go to trim. We're going to see the example. Basically, what I will do is I have this string with some spaces at the beginning and the end. The remove all the blank space at the beginning and at the end. But also, with an additional parameter, we can make it remove certain custom characters from the beginning of the end of the string, right? So in this, let's see the example. Here, I will tell it to remove it dot, comma from either the beginning or the end of the string. Here, just the dot, and here dot, comma, and sharp, right? So let's run it and let's see the differences between all of them. We run the first one. Okay, in this one, the end result is that we ask to remove dot or comma, so it removed the dot and then the comma. In the second one, right, we ask to remove the dot, right? So it didn't do anything because actually it's not either at the beginning or the end. There are other characters in between, right? And the final example is just, you know, removing everything, either dot, comma, or sharp from the string. Right? So it's really good. Before, you know, to be able to do this before in previous SQL version, we had to rtrim, replace. So it was much more complicated. Now with trim, we can do everything. Okay, translate. To do translation of character one by one. Oh, sorry. So the example here, let's see the example and see the output. Okay, here what I'm telling is I'm giving a string, right? In this case, I have all these characters, and we are telling to do the replacement one by one. So this one will be replaced by this one. The second one will be replaced by the second one. The third one will be replaced by the third one, and so on. So the end result is, you see here at the bottom, I see all parentheses, right? So replace everything by parentheses, right? Before it was, you know, much more complicated. Same here in this example, we are replacing, you know, everything by parentheses and removing columns. So this is doing one by one translation, right? Concat WS, basically to do concatenation. Well, the common example is to do first name, middle name, and last name, right? We always has the problem when one of the column was null, so we have to handle it manually, right? So now then we had concat, right, to just specify the character and where we wanted to do the concatenation. But now at WS, right, let's see, we just specify what's going to be the separator, which are going to be the columns, and we get the result. And this is also handling nulls, right? Same, we can also specify custom separators, right? So here is dot dot. So between first name, middle name, and last name, we have this double dot. So it's quite useful. And then string aggregations, right? We always have the, this list in where we have, for example, human resources information, right? For, names and email addresses, right? So what we are doing here is with this string aggregation is, okay, give me all the email addresses, use this character as a separator, right? And then we have our predicate, where department equal marketing and status equal current. So we get our list of emails separated by semicolon, right? So we have it here. And we can also use any custom separator, right? We can set up our own uh, separator and put it there, right? We have also, this just as an example, I am adding a null into the list, right? But the end result is also the same. It handles it's not like it's blocking the whole operation because of a null, right? It's handling the nulls. It's removing it from the output, right? Here we can also, put it let's switch to text real quick, right? We can have the list, right, with the carriage return character, right? Nothing new. Then switch back to grid. And we can also use the group by option, right? So here we are grouping by department. So per each department, we get these email addresses separated with the semicolon, right? And also there is an additional option which allows us to do sort the the email addresses within the string, right? So is this, right? So it's a string aggregation, right? Within group order by email address. So this is gonna give us the same output, but it's gonna be sorted by the, each email address. So with that, I'm done with the demos. Just shift 5. Other features to consider, really important, graph processing, right? Also, there are show plan enhancement in SQL Server 2017 when you use the latest Management Studio, and adaptive query processing, right? The CTP version is available to download. Right now is CTP 2.1, and I think that within this week or the next one, we're gonna get CTP 2.2. So it's free, download for any platform that you have and start using it. And with all that, I say thank you. I leave you all my contact information, Twitter, LinkedIn, and my blog. The presentation is going to be in my blog, in a SlideShare, and also in the DBA virtual group site. So if there is any question.
Yes, Javier, on that index rebuild, when you pause it, does it just stay in the pause state until you resume it, or is there a time limit?
No, it stays as it is until you resume it manually. You have to resume it, right? So if you don't, it's going to stay in that way forever.
Right. And then Javier, Laura wrote in saying that the online index creates a temporary structure while the index is recreated, the original index will be available until the index is completely created. So running the queries will not benefit from the index defragmentation until it's finished.
Until it's finished. Okay.
Yeah. And just had quite a few people thank you for the presentation. Would you also be able to send me the scripts to share
Yes.
on the website?
Yes.
Sure. So
Definitely.
this is being recorded. It will be posted on the DBA virtual chapter website under archives, and we'll have the recording along with the scripts. So Javier, that's it for all the questions. Thank you very much for your time and for the presentation, taking a look at the 2017. I already have people at my work who are interested in it, but we can't go to it until it's a general release.
Yeah. Well, now is a good moment to start testing and get familiar with all these new great features.
Yes. So thank
So
you. Thank you very much for the presentation today.
thank you, Julie, and thank you all.